But normally, if things are pretty much on schedule, they will sell it to you early, and then. But again, your estimators have to be able to coordinate with your field people to know pretty realistically what you're going to get done in what periods of time. And we use sophisticated schedules in order to project those types of things. Well, let me move on to cement for a little bit. That's probably a product that you're a lot more familiar with. As you know, cement is kind of a face powder consistency. It is really made from crushing down stone or crushing limestone down into that face powder material. That, of course, is then mixed with stone and sand and water to produce concrete that you'd see out on a parking lot or curb and gutter or sidewalk. In this area, most of the good aggregate for making cement, for some reason, is located along the Mississippi River. You have deposits that I guess were formed by the glaciers, and so as you go across the state or go across the country, as an example, if you go to Tennessee, you're going to run into granite. Granite runs up to about the Ohio River. We don't have any granite here in Illinois at all, but we've got a lot of limestone. But over near the Mississippi, they've got some good stone that makes cement. If you were, well, you probably don't recall, back in 1993, there was tremendous flooding all up and down the Mississippi River. If you lived over in western Illinois, you might remember it. During that period of time, there were a lot, and I mean dozens, of smaller cement mills that were flooded out and destroyed. It was not economically feasible to restart those cement mills. So all of a sudden we had a huge number of companies that just went out of business. They couldn't meet the EPA regulations. They were so small that if they went back into business, they couldn't pay for the rebuilding, that type of thing. So in order to get the cement that we need in the Midwest, we're buying a lot of cement from Mexico and from South America. And it comes up the Mississippi River on barges and is unloaded. If you think about putting a load of cement on a barge in South America, and it starts toward the Midwest, and all of a sudden somebody in China says, hey, we'll pay you 1.5 times for that load of cement what they're paying you in America, it doesn't take long to make a left turn, go through the Panama Canal, and head for China. And that has been driving up the price of cement in the Midwest tremendously. As a matter of fact, in October of '04, a ton of cement delivered was $85. 10 of '05, it's $104, and they're projecting in '06 about $115.
$84 was '05?
Yeah, $85 was in '04. Yeah, in '05 it was about $104, okay. And in '06 $115. Now that's delivered into this area of the Midwest.
Any idea what the Spanish cement would be compared to South American cement crossing the Atlantic, the others?
I have no idea. When ready-mix companies here buy cement, they will deal with a dealer, and at the time you place the order, you don't know where that cement is coming from. The same with us. When we place an order for liquid asphalt, we don't know whether it's West Texas crude, whether it's Venezuelan crude. Very little of this product comes from the Middle East or Saudi Arabian countries, because they can refine it into gasoline, and there's a much better market. But we get by far the majority of our product either from in the United States or from Mexico or Venezuela or Canada. And I think that shipping is the main factor. We'll talk about just recently there's been an announcement that there's going to be a huge cement factory built down near Cape Girardeau, which is a couple hundred miles or so south of St. Louis. This will be the first new cement plant in the United States in years, or at least in the Midwest in years. But again, it's going to take 5 or 6 years for that thing to be built. So it's not an easy or simple process. Let's talk about structural steel, or reinforcing steel rather, which is another key component to both vertical and horizontal construction. Yeah, that's fine. Again, over the last 20 to 30 years, virtually every major steel manufacturing plant in the United States has gone out of business. You know, there's no more U.S. steels, there's no more Ryerson steels, there's all of those for various reasons have gone out of business. Now, there are a lot of mini mills in the United States, and those mini mills have been put online for a couple of reasons. Number one is that they will primarily produce a very, very specific product. They'll produce stainless steel for possibly the home building industry, for sinks or something like that. They'll produce steel for the automobile industry. They'll produce very, very high quality steels, but a lot of the mills that produce the structural shapes or the reinforcing steels have just gone out of business. So when we order those components, like the steel beams on that bridge that you saw, it's not at all unusual to have a delivery date 4 to 6 months from the date that you order those. So if you get a contract, one of the first things you do is you order the structural steel so that you can get it online, because there just aren't that many manufacturers anymore that are producing those types of steels. In addition to that, the demand in China and India and around the world is increasing at an extremely rapid rate. As a matter of fact, you know Rural King, if you've ever been out to the Rural King store here in Charleston, well, they ship goods in from China in containers. When those containers get here, in order to ship something back to China, they're sending those containers to Decatur. They're loading the containers with scrap iron in Decatur, and they're shipping them back to China. In China, there's a tremendous amount of this type of steel production. One of the drawbacks, though, is that the Chinese steel production is of extremely poor quality, and so there's not much of it used back in the Western world or in the U.S. or Canada, and as a matter of fact, we cannot use it here in the United States in public works construction projects because of the poor quality. But I read an article recently that indicated that as fast as the Chinese population is growing, that they're going to have to produce 10,000 jobs a day, every day from now on, to have something for their people to do. In addition to that, 1.5 million people are moving from the farms to metropolitan areas a year in China. So that means that their demand for raw products, whether it be cement or whether it be oil or whether it be steel, is going to go on for a long, long time. That situation is not going to change quickly. So there are a lot of forces that are driving up construction prices in the United States, and from my perspective, I don't see those forces changing at all. When you come to our plant on Wednesday, you're going to see this laboratory, and we have a laboratory much like this at every single one of those asphalt plants. This one is bigger because it's at our corporate headquarters, and we do more mix design work here, but we're required to have a lab like this at every plant. The reason for that is, like I indicated before, IDOT requires that we test all the raw materials that go into a product, and then we test these samples out of the roadway. And when we cut a sample out of the roadway, we can do different things with it. We can break it to test certain things. We can heat it back up again, and when we heat it back up again, we can separate out the liquid from the stone. So then we can test the stone and we can test the liquid. So we're required to do a lot of that testing on any product that we produce.